Today I'm going to be talking about this colourful tile panel which was made in Persia during the late 19th century. At that time, Persia was under the control of the Shahs of the Qajar dynasty, who ruled for a long time, from 1786 right down to 1925, right down to modern times. We can admire and like this tile for several reasons. It is a superb example of the technical skill in glazing and composition of the time. It also has a very interesting pictorial theme based on an episode in one of Persia's great romantic poems, written in the 11th century by the poet Nizami. It has a scene from the ill-fated lovers Layla and Majnun. But first, a few words about the tradition of tile making in Persia. This tile is a descendant of a long and honourable tradition of tile making in Persia. Tiles were recorded at the palace of Darius of the 6th century BC at Susa, right down in the southwest of Persia, where figures, life-size figures of guards and archers, all made in glorious coloured glazed brick, adorned the walls. Tile making continued in Persia throughout the Middle Ages, and particularly in Isfahan, the glorious capital of Persia, in the 17th century. Isfahan was a particularly important centre for tile making. It was the capital. There was plenty of work for tile makers, as buildings such as the mosques, palaces, caravanserais, bazaars and opulent private houses were decorated with tiles. Isfahan was well situated on a good transport route, so materials for the glazes could be easily imported, and also Isfahan had a great river, the Zende Rud, the water of life, which supplied water which could be mixed with the clay materials needed for tile making. Now let us look at the tile in detail. It is a panel which would have furnished the wall of an opulent private house, possibly in an inner courtyard around a garden. Technically it is excellent. The base material is a fine clay mixed with a sandy material and other ingredients to give a firm, hard base for cutting into tiles after firing and then glazing. The colours that dominate, as you can see, are yellow, blue and turquoise. Yellow was a combination of lead and tin oxides, turquoise a copper oxide, while the blue was imported from Kashan, a centre in central Persia, which again was famous for generations as a centre both of tile making and as a source of this precious raw material, cobalt oxide, used for the blue. It was so famous that the Chinese imported vast quantities of it to make their wonderful blue and white porcelain. Now let us think how the tile was put together. It is made of a set of square tiles, and on each part tile a section of the design is painted. This is painted in thick glazes, but between each segment of the design is a black line, usually a matte gritty substance, which will prevent the glazes from running when the tile is fired again. Now, to get a complex pattern on a tile, you have to have an initial drawing. So this would have been drawn in paper, cut out in sections, pasted onto the tiles, and then drawn in before the glazes and the matte substance, to keep them separate, was applied. Now, having dealt with the technical side, let us see the results. And here we have this wonderful pictorial theme based on a famous scene from the great poem Layla and Majnun. There are many versions of this famous scene. In exquisite illuminated court manuscripts, on metalwork, but this tile interpretation of the late 19th century has rather a folkloric element about it, which adds to its charm. The scene, the star-crossed lovers are prevented from ever marrying. Their families do not want to make this alliance, and eventually Majnun goes mad for love of Layla. But what happens to him? He retreats into his own world, in which she no longer matters to him. And you see him here. He's retreated to an environment where he's surrounded by animals with whom he's made friends. The lion, the leopard, the humpbacked bull. Also there are foxes flying around among all that luxuriant foliage. He's quite happily seated cross-legged, cradling a deer on his lap, and notice the chicks at his feet and the bird happily and comfortably nesting in his hair. Layla, distraught as she is, has come a long ride on camelback, and you can see her camel beside her. She's got a companion with her who's astonished at the scene in front of him, but all is lost. Layla and Majnun will never meet again in life.